Some men cheat once and regret it forever. They carry the guilt like a scar, a reminder that they betrayed someone who trusted them. But not Daniel. For Daniel, cheating wasn't a mistake. It was a lifestyle, a language he spoke fluently, a hobby he practiced like a sport. To him, faithfulness wasn't a virtue. It was an optional subscription plan, and he wasn't interested in paying. Daniel had mastered the art of looking like the perfect boyfriend. Flowers on Fridays, selfies on Sundays, good morning texts every single day, as if he was the kind of man who cared about routine and affection. But Daniel's love was just a stage performance. Behind the curtain, he was already rehearsing with another woman. If love was a religion, Daniel wasn't a believer. He was an evangelist to betrayal. This is the story of how Daniel destroyed every relationship he ever touched. But it isn't just about one man. It's about the psychology behind why people cheat, why some can't stop, and why the joke always ends up being on them. Cheating, after all, is more than betrayal. It's a form of emotional violence. And Daniel? He was a serial offender.
Daniel's story doesn't start with romance. It starts with lies. He grew up in a house where truth was dangerous. His parents were strict, so strict that even saying, "I didn't do my homework," could earn him a beating. So he learned early that lying wasn't just useful, it was necessary. By age 10, Daniel could invent stories faster than most kids could memorize multiplication tables. He lied about eating vegetables, about finishing chores, about the bruises he got from falling, or at least that's what he told the neighbors. At first, these were survival lies. But over time, lying became his comfort zone. It was easier to bend reality than to face consequences. Most boys collect football cards. Daniel collected broken truths. By high school, Daniel's lies had evolved. He didn't just lie to his parents anymore. He lied to his teachers, his friends, even to himself. And when he got his first girlfriend at 15, he carried that habit into love. She was sweet, innocent, the kind of girl who thought promises actually meant something. Daniel promised her he was different. He promised he was loyal. He promised her forever. 2 weeks later, he was kissing her best friend behind the school library. Why? Not because he didn't care about his girlfriend, but because he wanted to see if he could get away with it. He wasn't in love with either of them. He was in love with the thrill of betrayal. Daniel's behavior wasn't unique. Psychologists call this novelty-seeking. The human brain, especially a teenage brain, is wired to chase new experiences because novelty triggers dopamine, the chemical of excitement. For most teenagers, novelty might mean trying a new sport or sneaking out past curfew. But for Daniel, it became the dangerous game of juggling hearts. And when he didn't get caught, the lesson was reinforced. Cheating wasn't a crime. It was a skill. The first lie led to the first kiss. The first kiss led to the first betrayal. And the betrayal led to a habit that would follow him for the rest of his life. By his early 20s, Daniel had perfected the mask of being the ideal boyfriend. He knew the little tricks that made him look devoted. Flowers on Fridays, to remind her he was thoughtful. Date nights every other Saturday, to prove he was committed. Public displays of affection on social media, to convince the world he was loyal. His Instagram was a carefully curated museum of love. Smiling couple selfies, anniversary posts, captions like, "My everything." And people believed it. His girlfriends believed it. Even he believed it, sometimes. But Daniel wasn't faithful. He was just consistent with his performance. Behind every smile in a photo, there was a secret text thread. Behind every dinner date, there was a lie about where he was last night. Behind every good morning text, there was a late-night rendezvous with someone else. If love was an exam, Daniel wasn't studying. He was cheating off everyone else's paper. Triangular flagged the suspicions. Of course, his partners noticed cracks. They always do. The late-night phone calls that ended too quickly. The mysterious perfume that lingered on his shirt. The way he always angled his phone away when texting. When one girlfriend finally confronted him, Daniel didn't panic. He smiled. Calm, casual, like a politician spinning a scandal. And his answer became legendary. "I'm not cheating. I'm just searching for myself." The excuse was so absurd, she almost believed it. Almost. Most people find themselves on a yoga retreat. Daniel found himself in someone else's bed. Brain why lies felt so good. Why was Daniel so good at lying? It wasn't just practice, it was reinforcement. Every time he cheated and got away with it, his brain released dopamine. That rush of "I won. I fooled her. I'm untouchable. Psychologists call this intermittent reinforcement, the same principle that makes slot machines addictive. You don't win every time, but when you do, the thrill is so intense it keeps you coming back. For Daniel, every successful lie was a jackpot. And just like a gambler, he couldn't stop playing, even when the stakes got higher. Performing arts love as a stage. On the outside, Daniel's girlfriends thought they were in a stable relationship. They got compliments from friends. You two are perfect together. They saw the flowers, the dinners, the couple photos. But they didn't see the backstage chaos. Daniel didn't love them. Not really. What he loved was being loved. He loved being wanted, being desired, being someone's everything. But once he had it, once the excitement faded, he craved it again, somewhere else. He wasn't addicted to women. He was addicted to the applause. Broken heart the girlfriend who tried to save him. One woman, perhaps the kindest he ever dated, saw through him. She caught the lies, the late-night disappearances, the gaslighting. But instead of leaving, she stayed. She thought she could fix him, heal him, love him enough to change him. And for a brief moment, Daniel almost believed it too. He almost stopped. Almost. But addiction doesn't end with almost. Within weeks, he was back to the same pattern. Another number saved under pizza delivery. Another business trip that was really just a night in another bed. She tried to be his cure. But Daniel didn't want medicine. He wanted more poison. Brain, why she stayed. Why didn't she leave? Because of trauma bonding. When love and betrayal are mixed together, the brain gets trapped in a cycle of reward and punishment. It's the same logic that keeps gamblers at the slot machine and victims in toxic relationships. The good moments feel so good, they erase the pain, until the pain returns. And by then, you're too invested to leave. She thought Daniel was broken and she could fix him. But Daniel wasn't broken. He was comfortable in the chaos. Tornado, the illusion of control. Daniel convinced himself he was in control. He could balance 2, 3, sometimes 4 women at once. He had excuses, schedules, and strategies. He thought he was a master of the game. But in reality, Daniel wasn't playing chess. He was juggling knives blindfolded. And eventually, cheating once can be brushed off as a mistake. Cheating twice might be called a bad habit. But for Daniel, cheating wasn't occasional. It was constant. By his mid-20s, it wasn't unusual for him to juggle 3 women at once. Sometimes 4. Each one convinced she was the only one. Each one unknowingly part of his rotation. Daniel had built his life like a circus act, balancing lies on one hand, lust on the other, and praying the spotlight never revealed the truth. And for a while, the audience clapped. Nobody suspected a thing. But no performance lasts forever. Counterclockwise arrows button the cycle. Here's how Daniel's relationships worked. Step 1. The chase. Daniel became obsessed with the thrill of winning someone new. The compliments, the late-night texts, the playful games, it was intoxicating. Step 2. The capture. Once she fell for him, Daniel bathed her in attention. He was charming, attentive, almost perfect. Step 3. The boredom. As soon as stability arrived, Daniel's excitement vanished. Suddenly her laughter wasn't new. Her hugs weren't addictive. Her love wasn't thrilling. Step 4. The escape. He found someone else. He justified it as just fun. And the cycle repeated. Again, and again, and again. Daniel wasn't looking for love. He was chasing novelty. Most people crave stability. Daniel craved chaos. Brain, the psychology of the spiral. Why couldn't Daniel stop? Psychologists explain it through dopamine tolerance. Just like drugs or gambling, the brain adapts. What once felt exciting soon feels normal. And to feel that same rush again, you need more. For Daniel, one woman's love. Daniel's lies collapsed. It wasn't quiet. It was violent, messy, explosive. Because betrayal doesn't just vanish. It leaves behind debris. One by one, the women he deceived began to speak. At first, it was whispers. He lied to me too. Then, it was conversations. Wait, you were dating him at the same time as me. Finally, it became a chorus. He played all of us. The web of lies he spent years weaving started to unravel. His name became a warning. His number a red flag. Daniel wasn't just a cheater anymore. He was a story. A cautionary tale shared over coffee, wine, and late-night phone calls. And the thing about stories is, they spread. Cheating doesn't just break trust. It fractures identity. The women he betrayed carried scars. Some developed trust issues, struggling to believe anyone could ever be loyal. Others became hypervigilant, checking phones, stalking social media, suspicious of every late reply. Psychologists call this betrayal trauma. It's when the person you trust most becomes the source of your deepest pain. And healing from it isn't quick. It can take years. Daniel didn't just hurt them in the moment. He infected their futures. Daniel thought his lies were limited to love. But habits don't stay in their lane. At work, he exaggerated achievements. He promised deadlines he couldn't meet. He charmed his way into promotions. But just like with relationships, the truth eventually surfaced. One missed project turned into two. One suspicious email turned into an investigation. Soon, his boss realized Daniel's talent wasn't execution, it was deception. And just like that, the job was gone. No applause, no sympathy, just a cold, printed termination letter. With no girlfriend to run to and no job to distract him, Daniel was left with something he had avoided his entire life, himself. And what he saw in the mirror wasn't pretty. Dark circles under his eyes. A phone that didn't buzz anymore. A reputation that followed him like a shadow. For the first time, Daniel had no one to lie to but himself. And even that was getting harder. Most people, when faced with consequences, reflect. They ask, how did I get here? Daniel asked a different question. How do I numb this? He drank. He gambled. He distracted himself with meaningless flings. Anything to avoid the silence. Anything to drown out the echo of loneliness. But the thing about consequences is, they don't drown. They float. And no matter how deep you sink, they rise to the surface. Daniel told himself new lies. I'm not the problem. Women are just too sensitive. Everyone cheats. I just admit it. I'll change tomorrow. Just not today. These weren't lies to others. They were lies to himself. And self-deception is the most dangerous kind, because once you start believing your own lies, reality has no way of breaking in. Every addict, every liar, every manipulator eventually faces a dark night. The moment when all distractions fail and you're left naked with your truth. For Daniel, it came at 3:17 a.m. on a Tuesday. He was lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, drunk, broke, and alone. His phone had been silent for weeks. His apartment smelled of stale beer and regret. And in that silence, a thought crept in, unwelcome, but undeniable. Maybe I'm the problem. It was the first honest thought he had in years. Losing girlfriends hurt. Losing his job hurt. But what hurt most was losing his reflection. Because when he looked in the mirror, he didn't see Daniel the charmer, Daniel the ladies' man, Daniel the player. He saw Daniel the liar, Daniel the coward, Daniel the man who couldn't stop cheating, even when it cost him everything. Psychologists call this moment cognitive dissonance, when your actions and your self-image no longer align. The discomfort is unbearable. Something has to change. But here's the thing. Change isn't guaranteed. Some people use this discomfort to transform. Others sink deeper into denial. Daniel was standing at the edge. One step could lead to redemption. One step could lead to destruction. Which way would he go? The consequences had arrived. The damage was done. The question wasn't whether Daniel had lost. It was whether he had anything left worth saving. The story has an ending. Some end in triumph. Some end in tragedy. And some hover in the space between, waiting for a choice. Daniel's story was at that crossroads. The first step to change isn't action, it's honesty. And for Daniel, honesty felt like swallowing glass. He sat in front of the mirror one night, staring at the face he barely recognized. The lines around his eyes weren't from laughter, they were from lies. The emptiness in his expression wasn't peace, it was exhaustion. For the first time, Daniel admitted out loud, I ruined everything. The words hung heavy in the air, like a confession to a judge who lived inside his own head. At the insistence of an old friend, Daniel reluctantly went to therapy. The first session, he laughed it off. The second, he cracked jokes. But by the third, he broke. The therapist didn't accuse him, didn't shame him. She asked one question. What are you so afraid of when you're alone? The answer? Silence. Daniel wasn't addicted to women. He was addicted to distraction. Because in silence, he had to face the boy who grew up lying to survive, the teenager who cheated to feel alive, the man who betrayed because he didn't know any other way to connect. And that terrified him. For the first time, Daniel tried to live differently. He deleted old contacts. He muted the late-night temptations. He practiced honesty, even when it hurt. He even began to journal, writing confessions that no one would ever read. Each page was a graveyard of lies he refused to carry anymore. But change isn't linear. It's messy. Daniel slipped. He lied again. He flirted again. He almost relapsed into old patterns. Because habits this deep don't vanish in a week. Or a month. Or maybe ever. Then came Anna. She wasn't like the others. She had heard the rumors. She knew his past. But she gave him a chance anyway, on one condition. If you lie to me once, we're done. Her eyes didn't threaten. They promised. For Daniel, this was the final test. Could he resist the urge to cheat? Could he fight the addiction to novelty, the itch for deception? For weeks, he did. For months, he held strong. And for the first time in his life, he tasted something scarier than betrayal. He tasted stability. But then came the night. A bar. A stranger. A smile too inviting. The temptation hit him like a wave. His mind raced. No one will know. It's just one time. I deserve this. The same lies he'd told himself 1,000 times before. He stood there, phone buzzing with Anna's text, "Come home safe." And in that moment, Daniel wasn't choosing between two women. He was choosing between two versions of himself. The liar, or the man who finally stopped lying. And here's where Daniel's story becomes yours to interpret. Because life doesn't always give us neat conclusions. Sometimes, the ending depends on the choices we make, the choices we're still making. Did Daniel walk away from temptation, proving that even the most broken men can change? Or did he give in, proving that some cycles are too strong to escape? We'll never know. Because Daniel's story isn't just Daniel's. It's every person's who has ever sabotaged love, betrayed trust, or run from silence. The man who couldn't stop cheating wasn't really addicted to sex, or love, or women. He was addicted to running. From pain, from truth, from himself. And until he learned to sit with silence, to face his reflection without flinching, he would never be free. So, was Daniel redeemed? Or ruined? That answer depends on who you ask. But one thing is certain. Cheating doesn't just destroy relationships. It destroys identities. It eats at the core of who you are, until all that's left is a hollow echo of the person you pretended to be. And if Daniel's story teaches us anything, it's this. You can cheat others for a while, but you can never cheat yourself forever.